I was in the hospital recovering from emergency surgery. My wife promised to take care of everything at home. But when I finally got to check my phone, I found a selfie of her in our bed. With my best friend. The caption read, "He won't be needing this anymore." I didn't respond. I spent the next 3 months quietly preparing. The day I walked out of that courtroom with full custody and the deed to our house, she finally realized what I'd been doing. I'm Ryan. 41 years old. I live just outside Dayton, Ohio. Regular guy, work for an HVAC company, was married, for 12 years to Denise. We have 2 kids together, Mikey, 8, and Abby, 6. At least, we had a life together. It all started with a gut pain that I thought was just bad fast food. I tried to tough it out, stupid, I know. But after a few hours, I realized something was really wrong. I told Denise, and she brushed it off. "You're just stressed, babe," she said without even looking up from her phone. When I collapsed at work the next day and an ambulance had to take me in, it turned out my appendix had burst. It was so bad they said if I'd waited even a few more hours, I probably would have died. I woke up 2 days later in the ICU with tubes everywhere. Denise was there, acting like some loyal wife, brushing my hair back, calling me her strong man. She promised me everything was fine. She promised she would take care of the kids, the house, the bills, everything. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? I had no idea that less than 24 hours after she said those words, she was already back in our bed, with my best friend. Day 4 in the hospital, a nurse asked if I wanted my personal stuff. I said sure, not really thinking about it. When she handed me my phone, I almost cried, not because I missed it, but because it felt like a piece of normal life in my hand again. First thing I did was text Denise. No answer. Second thing was check my notifications. That's when I saw it. A Snapchat notification from Denise. It was a picture. Her in our bed, my side of the bed, wearing my old high school football t-shirt. Next to her, under the covers, was Jason. My best friend since I was 17. Grinning at the camera like a damn fool. The caption said, "He won't be needing this anymore." I felt like my chest caved in. It wasn't just betrayal. It was cruelty. It was cold, deliberate cruelty. I stared at that screen for a long time. I don't even know how long. At some point, the nurse came in to check on me because my heart monitor was going crazy. I told her I was just feeling a little pain. That was a lie. I felt nothing. Nothing except ice crawling through my veins. I didn't react. I didn't text her. I didn't text Jason. I didn't even cry. I just shut down. I spent the next 3 months pretending everything was fine while I plotted the slowest, coldest revenge I could manage. When Denise visited the hospital, I smiled and thanked her for being so strong. When Jason texted me about coming by to visit, when I got out, I acted like I couldn't wait. I already knew exactly what I was going to do. I hired a lawyer the day I got out of ICU. My lawyer's name was Mr. Galvin, old guy, quiet voice, smart as hell. He didn't ask stupid questions. I showed him the Snapchat photo, the texts, the bank records. Yeah, I found out they used our joint card at some fancy hotel downtown. He just nodded and said, "We'll bury them." Ohio is an equitable distribution state. That means cheating doesn't automatically screw you, unless you can prove it harmed the family financially or emotionally. Guess what? They did both. Jason wasn't just some random guy. He was family to us. My kids called him Uncle Jay. And Denise wasn't just cheating. She was spending our shared money doing it while leaving me rotting in a hospital bed. Mr. Galvin told me to gather everything. So I did. I pulled footage from our Ring cameras. I downloaded bank statements. I even put a tracker on our shared iCloud account, so every time Jason showed up to our house, his phone location pinged. Denise made it easy. She got cocky fast. Started posting Instagram pics of herself out at bars, out with friends. Guess who was always tagged nearby? Meanwhile, she'd tell me she was too tired to bring the kids to the hospital. I documented it all. Screenshots. Dates. Receipts. Everything. Once I was healthy enough to move around again, I went home. Denise acted weird. Not guilty, nervous. She talked too much, made too many promises, treated me like a guest in my own damn house. Jason showed up the second night I was back. Pretended he just wanted to check in. I shook his hand. Smiled. Offered him a beer. Inside, I wanted to rip his throat out. But outside? I needed to be calm. Because the quieter I was, the more they assumed I was stupid or still too weak to notice. Meanwhile, my lawyer was finalizing all the paperwork. Emergency custody filings. Divorce filings. Motions to freeze joint accounts. Everything. I had one more thing to get, proof of misconduct in front of the kids. It didn't take long. One night, Denise didn't realize Mikey had figured out how to use FaceTime on his iPad. He called me while I was supposedly at physical therapy. I answered. Guess what was in the background? Jason. Sitting at the kitchen table. Drinking a beer. With Denise sitting on his lap, laughing. Right in front of my kids. Got it all on video. I kept playing dumb. Even when Denise started dropping hints like, maybe you should move into your mom's house for a few months, you know, until you're better. Yeah. She thought she could push me out and move Jason in. She had no idea her eviction was already signed, sealed, and waiting for the right moment. I kept up the act for 2 more weeks. I smiled while Jason showed up more often. I nodded while Denise told me how stressed she was taking care of the house and kids, like I hadn't spent the last 3 months fighting to survive. Inside, I was boiling. But outside, I was patient. I made sure to back up everything. Video from the FaceTime call. Audio from a cheap little recorder I bought at Walmart and hid in the laundry room. Caught Jason talking about how easy this setup was, and Denise laughing about how she was finally free. She wasn't free. Not yet. About a week before the court filings dropped, I got a surprise. I got a Facebook message from a woman I didn't know. Her name was Shelby. Turns out, Jason had a girlfriend. A serious one. Had been with her for almost 2 years. Shelby had no idea he was screwing Denise until she noticed he was barely coming around anymore and started digging. Found pictures on his old iCloud. Found texts. Found Snapchats, the same one Denise had sent me. Except Jason sent the same photo to her, with the caption, "Upgrading soon." Shelby was pissed. I mean, real pissed. We met for coffee. Swapped screenshots. Shared stories. Shelby offered to testify if I needed her. She said she'd love nothing more than to burn Jason to the ground. It was like the stars lined up. My lawyer helped me file everything at once: divorce petition, emergency custody order, motion for exclusive occupancy of the house, financial restraint motion, to freeze accounts. We set the court date 2 weeks out, long enough for Denise to hang herself a little more without knowing it. I started sleeping on the couch, claiming my back hurt from surgery. Denise barely noticed. She was too busy staying out late, working overtime at a job she didn't even have anymore. Found that out too. She got fired 2 months ago for attendance issues. Every night she left the house, I logged the time. Every time she bought gas or food with the joint card, I logged it. Meanwhile, I told the kids, gently, to always call me if they needed anything, no matter where I was. I made sure they knew Daddy was always available. About 5 days before the court hearing, Denise started getting weird. She'd leave the house wearing way too much perfume and makeup. She'd snap at the kids for small stuff, like Mikey spilling cereal or Abby asking for help with homework. She even started talking about selling the house, because we needed a fresh start. That's when I knew she felt safe. She thought she won. She thought I was too sick, too tired, too broken to fight her. She didn't know she was already standing on a trapdoor. The day before court, Jason showed up again. Middle of the afternoon. I heard the doorbell while I was upstairs pretending to nap. Jason didn't even knock politely. He let himself in with the spare key hidden in the garage. I heard them downstairs laughing, talking loud. He said, "You think he suspects anything?" Denise snorted and said, "Please. He's too dumb to even know what day it is." I recorded the whole thing from the top of the stairs. Later that night, when Denise went to run errands, I changed the locks. Took my name off all shared credit cards. Transferred my paycheck to a new bank account. Made copies of the house deed showing my name was the only one listed. We'd bought the house before marriage, it was my inheritance money that paid for it. By the time the sun rose, she was locked out, legally and physically. The morning of the hearing, Denise was already furious. She tried to come home around 7:30 a.m. Probably after crashing at Jason's, only to find her key didn't work. She banged on the door like a madwoman. Pounded the windows. Screamed my name. Woke up the whole damn street. I didn't even flinch. Instead, I called the sheriff's office, calmly, and reported a domestic disturbance involving an unauthorized person trying to enter my residence. They knew about the court orders already in place. They sent a deputy within minutes. By the time the cruiser pulled up, Denise was standing barefoot on the porch, hair a mess, mascara running, screaming at me through the glass. The deputy asked her for ID, looked over the paperwork I handed him, and told her flat out, "Ma'am, you don't live here anymore. Please leave before you're arrested for trespassing." The look on her face, pure shock. She couldn't even process it. She kept sputtering, but, we're married. That's my husband." The deputy just shrugged. "Not my business, ma'am. Go to court if you have a problem with it." And that's exactly where we were headed. She showed up late to court, looking like hell. Jason wasn't there. Guess he figured out he was in way too deep. Shelby, though? Shelby showed up, dressed clean and sharp, holding a thick folder full of texts, photos, and screenshots. Denise tried to strut in like she had any power left. But when she saw Shelby sitting next to me, smiling like the devil himself, she knew something was wrong. First thing the judge asked, "Is there any proof of marital misconduct that would justify exclusive occupancy and full custody?" My lawyer stood up and calmly dropped a thumb drive on the evidence table. "Exhibits A through K, Your Honor." The judge plugged it into his laptop. Clicked. Started scrolling through security footage, texts, Snapchats. I watched Denise start shaking. Hands first. Then her whole body. When the Snapchat photo popped up on the screen, her in bed with Jason, caption and all, she gasped so loud the whole room turned to look. I didn't even look at her. I kept my eyes on the judge. The judge just nodded and said, "Very compelling." Then he asked Shelby to testify. Shelby laid it out simple and brutal. Jason had been cheating on her with Denise. Jason was spending nights at my house. Jason was bragging about moving in once I was out of the picture. She showed timestamps and locations. Denise tried to object. She started babbling about, how dare she, they weren't serious, this is slander. The judge shut her down cold. When it was Denise's turn to speak, she tried to flip the story. She said I was abusive. That I neglected the kids. That I wasn't emotionally available. No evidence. No police reports. No witnesses. Nothing but her word. My lawyer didn't even have to say much. The judge looked at her like she was something he stepped in. He asked her one question, "Ma'am, if he was abusive and neglectful, why did you leave your minor children with him unsupervised for 3 months while he recovered from life-threatening surgery?" She couldn't answer. She just sat there, mouth open, tears running down her cheeks. It was over. The judge granted me full legal and physical custody of Mikey and Abby. Exclusive ownership of the house. Frozen access to all joint accounts. No spousal support owed to Denise. Denise to have only supervised visits until further review. Denise lost her mind in court. She started screaming at me. At Shelby. At the judge. Bailiffs had to escort her out. The last thing she yelled before they dragged her out of the courtroom was, "You think you're winning, Ryan? You're gonna die alone." Jason didn't even want me. He just wanted the house. Everyone heard it. Even the judge. He shook his head and said, "Let the record reflect the respondent's own admission." After the courtroom blew up, things happened fast. Denise tried everything to claw her way back. She filed for an emergency appeal. She tried lying to the child services people who supervised her visits. She even tried to drag Jason into some fantasy story about how they were in love and planning a family. But Jason was already gone. Shelby had blasted everything all over social media. Screenshots, texts, pictures, everything. Jason's family saw it. His boss saw it. His girlfriend's family saw it. Jason lost his job 3 weeks after court. Lost whatever friends he had left. Moved back in with his mom in a tiny house on the edge of town. Last I heard, he was working night shift stocking shelves at a grocery store. From cool bachelor to living off his mom in under a month. Good. Denise tried to get a better job so she could impress the court and maybe get more time with the kids. Problem was, she had no real work history for the last 10 years. She bounced between temp jobs. Got evicted from her sister's apartment after too many screaming fights. Had to move into a rundown motel by the interstate. At every supervised visit, she'd show up late. Or high. Or smelling like cheap vodka. After 6 months, the court cut her visits even more. After 8 months, the judge ordered no contact unless she completed 6 months of clean drug tests and parenting classes. She never did. The last time Mikey and Abby saw her, she promised she'd see them next weekend. That was almost a year ago now. They stopped asking about her after a while. I didn't poison their minds against her. I didn't have to. She did that all on her own. Not gonna lie, I didn't walk away clean either. I spent a long time angry. Bitter. Cold. I pushed away good people who tried to help me. Almost got fired once because I snapped at my boss for no reason. Therapy helped. Time helped more. The kids are what really saved me. They needed me. They trusted me. And I wasn't about to fail them the way Denise did. I never answered Jason's texts. I never answered Denise's emails, begging for one more chance once she figured out she had no one else left. I didn't scream. I didn't gloat. I didn't throw their mistakes in their faces. I lived. That was the revenge. Getting healthy. Keeping the house. Tucking Mikey and Abby into bed every night under the roof they tried to steal. Building a life better than anything they could even dream of now. Denise and Jason destroyed themselves. All I had to do was survive long enough to watch. And I did.